I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get my
Yeah.
headphones figured out here. All right.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Morning. Sorry, this is really. I don't get out much. This is really exciting for me.
Yeah.
Even regularly, I don't get out much. So this is like, technology.
It's incredible. It really is. It's just I think it's a little early for myself. That's why I stayed up too late.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I stay up a little later too. But
So the trickiest part of all this is if one of us laughs or one of us has a quick interjection that's funny, the two voices almost cancel each other out and you don't hear much of anything. And so the trickiest part for us today is like one person talk at a time. And Billy and I, even though we don't use it very often, we kind of just are very patient. But we've kind of come up with the idea that if you really need to interject something, you hold up a finger and then the other person will stop for a second, just in case there's any great interjection points.
Okay.
I know, and then it leads to that.
Yeah. And I might try to use my the mute on and off. I don't know. I'll try it, see what happens.
So, Billy, what kind of I remember when we originally thought about doing this, we were both making our own lists of questions, which probably overlaps greatly. And we never really got together and like sorted that out. Did you?
Yeah.
Do you still have your list?
I do. And so I just figured, you could kind of take the lead and I'll kind of chime in, let Jenny say what she's going to say and just kind of sit back. And then if there's anything I really want to add in, I'll wait. You know what I mean? Like I'll just be patient and wait. I have my list on my phone of questions. And I thought about that last night. I was like, oh, maybe we should have went over these. And then I said, we'll just figure it out. I'll just sit back and go and kind of be a little bit quiet. And hold on, let me pull out my list. And, I'm sure it'll be okay.
Yeah, there's, so I had my list and then, I putting it on social media. People had lots of questions as well. And some of them fit into mine. Some of them didn't. One of the things somebody said was you should just let the person talk about it and not ask questions. So I was almost like, maybe I should do that first and then ask questions after. Maybe like a 5 to 10 minute section of just talking about the program.
okay.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, so I have like two little pieces of, what is that? That's weird. That doesn't even belong here. Oh, apparently whenever we were first looking at interviewing you, Jenny, they had just come out with a new AA study that showed that AA supposedly definitely works or whatever, or can definitely work.
I remember seeing that.
And I had brought that in because I was going to, I don't know why. I don't remember my point to that. I don't remember if I was going to ask if you, I don't even know. Is it about like, so you don't go to, well, never mind. I'm not going to ask that. We'll wait till the,
Okay.
we'll wait till we're on. Beyond that, I don't really have any feedback from last week. What was that about again? Oh, the shopping cart thing. Yeah, a couple people talked about putting shopping carts back, but
missed the point.
well, I don't know if they missed the point, but I don't know if we even had a point last week. But yeah,
it comes up, and it may with Jenny as well. Like, so I was at my first in-person NA meeting this week. My home group met. We had, and unfortunately, we went to 11 people. So I don't know, which the meeting started, and there was 7 of us. And it went until 10 minutes after 8. The meeting had opened. We had done all the readings we already shared. And then 4 people showed up all together from a recovery house. So I was like, oh, great. Now you put us over 11. But the meeting was already going and we were outside. But that was sort of coincidental. Just because it was a super nice day and it was real pretty out. So everybody was like, hey, let's just sit outside.
What did the church say about, did you call them? What did they say?
I don't know. I didn't call them, so I don't know. The Jimmy, my boss who pays the rent, contacted them and said they didn't really care. mean, they aren't using the facility for anything right now. So, but we didn't end up going in anyway. So, I mean, we went in, got some chairs, brought them out, and then took the chairs back in.
We had our outdoor meeting, and we had 5 people the first week and just 4 the next week. We're lucked out with the weather. And then some people are willing to go inside. I'm not. Like, I just want to stay outside. So we haven't gone inside yet. I'm just hoping we luck out with weather, because I think having an outdoor meeting, if we go inside, that defeats the point of having an outdoor meeting, to be safe. And
Right.
I don't know if we'll go over 10. We don't usually around here. And this might come up in the big interview. We haven't been very big, but it's still worth it to me to keep going. So I don't, but back to your point, I don't want to go inside yet. I'm not ready.
When you were outside, Jenny, did you wear a mask?
No,
You didn't?
we stayed apart. We were around a fire pit, and so with this, how am I allowed to mention voices, Cecil County? How, I think you guys do talk about that stuff.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, you mention
Okay,
whatever you want.
Good. So we were at, it's funny, I just adjusted my screen to see you guys better, which is totally like, I'm getting used to this. You guys look very cool, by the way. I like your background, Billy. Like, yeah, and you have a nice setup too with your headphones. Like, anyway, this is just my like sitting chair where I read. I'm like, but you guys look professional.
Feel in your
Very
head.
unprofessional.
Like, I actually got dressed and washed my face. And I brushed my teeth to see you guys.
That's excellent.
Yeah. But anyway, so we met at Voices at the fire pit, and the logs around the fire are 6 feet apart. And then some guys, like, I might be a little hyper about it, because I want the meeting to be a success. I don't want us to get shut down, but I also don't want to catch the coronavirus. So I'm like, no, we're not going inside. No, go to the bathroom before you come, and no hugs or handshakes. But like, one guy kind of creeped up on my car, and I was like, like, we're supposed to be distant, dudes. Like, I don't have a mask on. So, but I'm just kind of following the rules. I'm good with rules. I'm good with programs.
That happened too. I went in with the intention of like, I'm not hugging anybody. And I ended up hugging 2 people. Mostly because they just did they came in and big hug, and it was just like, oh my God, like, I guess we're doing this, and ended up. Now, most of the people there weren't hugging, and there were a few people that were like, no way, like, I'm not, don't come near me. So, which is probably how I should have been, because after I left, I'm like, oh man, what did I do?
Oh, the instinct was there. Like, I saw my one girlfriend I haven't seen for a while, and I was like, like, we both had that same, like, oh, like, okay, when we saw each other at the first meeting, and then the second meeting, I was more cool about it. But it was beautiful having the meeting outdoors. If you guys want to take that space at Voices, because the woods, like, it's like woods and birds, and yes, the highway's there, but you really can tune that out, and it's just a really great space. So we're lucky to have that.
I don't know. I had somebody that I like talk to me about, it might be that I'm scared, and that's why I'm staying inside, and I'm just so over talking about coronavirus and resentments against people. I'm like, whatever. Yeah. I think part of why I don't go out is so I don't run into those situations of not wanting to hug and other people being somewhere I'm not. And
yeah, it's weird.
I don't know. So the only
the one.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm with you though. The one guy, he wanted to ride together, and I was like, no. And he was like, and then after the meeting, he's like, come on, we're the only people coming from Southern East County. We should just ride together. I'm like, no, like, and he just doesn't take it seriously. And I was really like, wow, okay, he just doesn't take it that seriously. And I'm on the other end. I'm like, I'm so I'm with you.
So we don't have a whole lot of back stuff to talk about. I did, when I posted it this week, I mostly asked if people had questions for somebody in a different recovery modality, to get them to do the work for me so I don't have to think as hard. And I did get some response to that. Always, as usual, you know, Twitter got a shit ton of response and Facebook got like next to none. And I'm like, I don't understand that at all, why people are different. I do have a couple little quick things to recap. Not about anything in particular, just about random stuff, but that shouldn't take long. But then I guess we can just jump right into it after we start. Billy, you got anything you need to say, or?
No, not really.
Oh, I need to come up with something.
Oh, I have one more interjection.
Okay.
So I messaged a friend who has more recovery Dharma experience than me. And she said the only thing I should avoid is talking about the Noah Levine case, because it was a lawsuit. And I could say I was in refuge recovery, but I shouldn't gossip about what happened. I shouldn't talk about the case. I could say that, yes, I started as refuge recovery and then we moved on.
Branched off. Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't want this to be tarnished. They're happy for this interview. This woman was happy for the interview, and she's like, just don't talk about the Noah Levine stuff too much.
Now, see, that's fair. I just, and I'm like, I didn't plan on asking you about it. I'm just worried about my own humorous comments about it.
That's you. That's not me.
Yeah, I don't want to. You're right, though. I don't want to paint him badly.
And that's you. And just if my response is like, you know, like it's because I can't talk about it.
Yeah, well, I didn't have any questions about any of that. So yeah, I wasn't going to go there.
It's I can't. I'm choosing not to. I'm choosing, you know, part of Buddhism is wise speech. And I'm choosing to not gossip about it or, you know, do like conjecture. Like I definitely have an opinion about stuff, but you know, especially in this kind of platform, I'm not going to talk about it too much. I'll just say, yep, something happened. I didn't like the response, so we moved on.
I think really the only point of even bringing it up at all would probably be to explain where recovery Dharma came from.
That's great. Yep.
And that's beyond that, it's kind of like, whatever.
Okay.
We'll save that for somebody who's still in refuge recovery and ask them why it doesn't bother them.
Yeah. I'm curious, I'm curious what people might say in response to this, like what questions they'll have after this. So I'll definitely be tuning into your Twitter, like, what do you want to know? You know, like to see what people have to say. So.
It will be interesting. All right. I guess if we're ready, we can be ready.
Sounds good.
All right, welcome back to Recovery Sort of. I'm Jason. I'm a guy wearing long johns.
I'm Billy. I'm a person in long-term recovery.
And today we have Jenny.
Hi, good morning. Or good afternoon, whenever you're listening.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never actually, do we say good morning usually? We might. I don't really know. I don't pay attention.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Jenny's with us today. We're going to talk about a different type of recovery program called Recovery Dharma. And we have 1,000,000,006 questions about that because it seems really interesting that it does not, you know, I was exposed to this whole 12-step model. You get a sponsor, you do your service, and bam, you're clean. And that's how it works. And so I'm super curious to hear about some other thing that does not work exactly like the thing that worked for me. I want to know more about it. Before we jump into that, I do want to take a second. A buddy of ours, Joe, over at the Brutally Sober podcast, has 9 months clean, and I just wanted to recognize and acknowledge that. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to acknowledge I don't know how I forgot to bring this up last week. I forgot to bring it up. We have a new logo. I don't even know if you've noticed it, Billy. We have a new logo.
I got a compliment about our new logo, and I meant to tell you. Someone saw that. I said, "You noticed the logo?" He said, "Yeah, I noticed it right away. It came up on my thing." I was like, "What is that?" And I looked at it. He said, "It's really cool." So I said, "Jason would love it." He to get a compliment about the logo. That was something he's been working on. So
that's so awesome. Yeah, it's cool. It's way better than, I mean, dude, we had like this standard, you know, create your own logo on Anchor, which was just words with like a color behind it. It was awful. Yeah. It drove me crazy. And it's taken us, 7 months to get something a little more official looking. And so I was super excited. We got it. And then I completely forgot to mention it last week. And so I'm like, yeah, now we can make clothes. We got to make only revealing clothes. They got to be like, selling sex and advertisements. That's the only way this works, really, is to give away like panties and bras with recovery sort of on it. And I really don't think that works either. But I don't know. At some point, I want a hoodie, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
So where we are at, we kind of put this out there to the world. We got a lot of feedback on Twitter. I was a little confused. There was like 3 or 4 different people that I don't know if they read my Twitter as if I was being a jerk. Because I basically just said, hey, if you run into somebody who's in a different recovery program, what questions would you have for them? And there was like 3 or 4 people who were like, I wouldn't ask them anything. I wouldn't be arrogant to, judge their... I'm like, I wasn't trying to be arrogant. I was curious, right? But the weird thing was, even when I laid out afterwards what I was really doing, none of them really responded or had any more to say about it. I was like, maybe I don't know. Maybe they just really don't want to ask about anybody's program. I have no idea. But we did get a lot of feedback. One of the more interesting comments was from just some sober guy who also just celebrated some clean time, I think, if I remember correctly, like 6 years. But he said, don't ask questions, just let them tell their story and you'll learn what you need to learn. And so I think that is the place we'll start. We'll let Jenny just tell her story of recovery Dharma.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start by saying I am not like a spokesperson for Recovery Dharma. I'll just tell my experience, if that works for you guys. So in 2016, I got sober in 2013, and I started with AA. And then around 2016, and I did the 12 steps, and I was very involved, and it worked. Around 2016, I heard of Refuge recovery, which was a Buddhist-based recovery program. Now, anytime in AA anybody brought up any kind of like Buddhist wisdom, my ears always like pricked up, like, oh wow, that's really cool. And some of the spiritual books that I was reading, because my sponsor and everybody in the rooms was like, you got to get into spirituality, and I was definitely leaning towards Buddhism. Refuge had been around longer, but I hadn't heard about it till about my 4th year of recovery. And so I checked them out, but they were too far away. It was in Wilmington, which from where I live is about 1 hour and 10. So I went to a couple of those meetings, but it was like right at rush hour. It was hard to get to, and I have a family, so I can't take that much time to take off. So I checked it out for about a month, and then I stopped. Well, then an opportunity showed up, I guess not the next summer, almost a year later, to start my own meeting where I live. So I took it and I started as Refuge. And we did that for about a year. And then things happened. Anybody who knows Refuge kind of knows a little bit about what happened. And a new group formed called Recovery Dharma. And that really resonated with me and us more. So we switched to Recovery Dharma. And the program is similar. I'll tell you about how a meeting goes. Like AA, it's about an hour. There's a little opening, and then we start with a 10 to 15 minute meditation, usually guided, sometimes silent. You can sit how you like, in a chair, on the floor. I mean, one person laid down, you totally can. You don't have to be a perfect meditator. We're all learning. And usually the meditations are of 2 varieties, either like an awareness meditation guided or a heart practice guided. And we could talk more about that if you have questions. So after the meditation, we come back to the room, mentally. And then we do a little reading from the book. Usually we just go in order in the book, just chapter by chapter. And it prompts a discussion. We discuss kind of round robin. And then lately we've also been ending with a 5-minute meditation by someone outside of Recovery Dharma, but who also jives with the program. And then we end and we all see you later. But then it's not just the meeting. I guess the practice of Recovery Dharma too is when you go home, you're kind of expected to meditate at home, kind of like AA. You're expected to keep up with readings and practices at home. Same with Recovery Dharma. Also, I should say the book, it's not just Buddhism, it's recovery, Buddhist-based recovery. And so that's the practice. And in addition to meditation at home, you can check out Dharma talks online, other readings. It's encouraged to do yoga, get involved in your community. And how am I doing? Got any questions?
Yeah, so I heard nothing about step work, and so I think you need to sign me up, which is perfect.
Yeah, okay.
I want to do no step work. It sounds great.
Well, we don't have step work per se, but so in Buddhism, we have the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. And the book chapters are divided up like that. You start with the Four Noble Truths. Well, first you start with how the program works. Then you go over the Four Noble Truths, and then you go over the Eightfold Path. And at the end of each chapter are some question prompts. So inquiries, they call them inquiries. Now these inquiries, you can work with a mentor, you can work in a group, but it is expected as you're working the program to consider these inquiries about yourself, about your addiction, about how you relate to the world. Also, Recovery Dharma isn't just drugs and alcohol. It's process addictions like eating, gambling, sex, relations, anything you could be addicted to. So this program is designed for the whole spectrum of addiction.
So the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, 4 and 8 is 12. What's up with the 12 number in recovery? I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah, that's a coincidence, I think.
So for anybody who's unaware, Refuge Recovery had, and this is, maybe, I know Jenny doesn't want to talk about this too much in the sense of any judgmental type talk, but she might be able to correct some of my facts. This was like me reading a quick blurb the other day to learn more about it. The gentleman who kind of started it wrote the Refuge Recovery literature, but then donated his book to the program in order for the program to work without, to be a fellowship, a free fellowship, to where I understand. It wasn't a paid program. He was also, the gentleman who wrote the book was also involved in some other endeavors that were paid endeavors. And in those other endeavors, he, did some possibly unethical things with students or people of the opposite sex, some Bill Clinton type stuff, I think. And then, they just decided that people decided they didn't want to be associated with that. And so there was a lawsuit, a court thing. The program's kind of split. So there still is Refuge Recovery. He has nothing to do with it. He completely donated all the material that was his so that he doesn't make any money off of it. And they're free of him. And he's not on the board anymore. And then there's Recovery Dharma, which is very similar, but just not associated with him at all. Does that sound sort of ish?
That's a pretty good synopsis. Yeah.
Okay,
and,
cool.
Honestly, I haven't kept up with the Noah Levine news lately. So yeah, maybe he did donate the book. I'm not sure. The new group, Recovery Dharma, it was formed from the former board of Refuge Recovery. And the book is a little, it's less personal, like where Noah Levine, his book, I think is, it's very him and it's great, And then so Recovery Dharma book, it's a little thinner, and it seems like broader. It's what do they call it? Peer led. So there's no leaders, no teachers. Recovery Dharma, peer led, no leaders, no teachers. Whereas, or it's any teacher you want, I guess. And then as long as they're Buddhists, and then Noah Levine's, it's him. That's him. So.
Oh, okay. So See, I don't know how they work that out. From what I could understand,
Yeah.
that program is definitely run by a board now too.
Oh,
And
my
that was
audio
part
cut
of.
out.
Oh no, Jenny can't hear us.
I can't hear you.
That's not good.
Uh-oh. So technical
No sound.
difficulty.
No.
I'm assuming.
How do we tell her? We can hear each other. We can hear her. That's very strange.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't hear you guys.
Yeah, that's not.
My connection out here in Earlville. Ah!
So yeah, that makes for technical difficulties. That always makes things fun.
Yeah, I had to cut that out for sure.
So, and I can add a little bit. I did go to one recovery Dharma. Well, I think it was Refuge recovery when I went. This was back when one of the first meetings when they opened in this area. And it was pretty interesting. It was very much what Jenny described. We went in, did a meditation, then did some reading out of the book, and it was interesting. It was definitely different than what I was used to, different than what I had experienced.
Nope.
Hello?
I wonder what happened.
No sound. How is that not working?
Yeah, that's weird. We can still hear her, and we can hear each other. But yeah, I found it pretty interesting. And at the time, I don't think I was meditating as regularly as I am now. So I wasn't as into it. But I know, like say, for me, it was just a little different than what I was used to as far as a 12-step meeting. It was definitely more open with the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths.
Yeah. What?
Okay. There we go.
Jenny's back.
I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. So
that's all right.
That's okay.
We know how to solve it if it happens again now.
Okay. Yeah. Turn off and on.
I had just said I went to I think it was still Refuge recovery when I went, but I had went to, I think, one of the first meetings in this area when they opened out at the RCA facility out in Chestertown or Earlville, where the heck that place is. And it was interesting. I really liked it. I thought it was pretty neat. I wasn't meditating as regularly then as I am now. So it was, a little uncomfortable just because I'm not used to going to a meeting where you sit there for the first 20 minutes and nobody says anything. But it was interesting. It was really neat.
I went to an online NA meeting in Germany. I think it was Germany a couple of weeks back, and it was a meditation meeting, and we meditated. So basically, I sat there for 20 minutes and stared at the people on the screen who all cut their cameras out while they meditated. And I was like, if I turn my camera off, I'm not going to meditate. I'm going to type something in a different tab or do a Google search. I'm not going to do this. So I left my camera on and meditated. So I got to say, one of the things I find completely mind-blowing, coming from Baltimore City, we have a variety of all kinds of different programs, and there's things everywhere. You can find a Debtors Anonymous or a Sex Addicts Anonymous or a Al-Anon or a AC. All these things are plentiful, right? And so I came up here and looked for some of these when I first moved up here, and maybe it's changed. I don't think. I've only been here a year and a half, but there was nothing. It was look, you can go to NA or AA. It's wow, thanks. So what I find interesting is I had never been exposed to Refuge recovery or recovery Dharma when I lived in Baltimore. And so to come up here to see not as many different types of groups, and then to find one that I've never heard of was whoa, hey, how'd that happen? And so when Jenny said there's only 5 members there, I was like, yeah, but you have a meeting. That's still good.
Yeah. Well, and part of the reason we went to recovery, recovery Dharma was because we have support. We say Sangha, community is Sangha. There's a big Sangha down in Baltimore City that used to be Refuge, that is now Recovery Dharma.
Huh.
So they're close by, and I'm friends with someone there, and we're supportive. If I ever have a question or something, I buzz him, and he's great. I have a lot of like social media friends around the area, that I've met through Recovery Dharma. And then the other big group is Lancaster. So, and they're Recovery Dharma. So that's another reason why we chose Recovery Dharma. But yeah, Baltimore City has it, is what my point in response to your question. Yeah.
I wonder if like, NA and AA, just because they've been around so long and they're very established and they're very status quo, people know about them. They're like, hey, go there. Like, I guess it's very well could have been that they are down in Baltimore and I just never heard of them. And I'm just curious, like, how they get the word out. How do you spread the word? Is it attraction rather than promotion in Recovery Dharma?
Yeah, we're definitely attraction rather than promotion. And for us, what we did was we got, so there's an online meeting list. So if you go to their website, you can find a local meeting. And then locally, we advertise through voices, word of mouth, because many of us, not all, many of us still go to like AA or NA too. So we just were like, oh, hey, I noticed you were interested in Buddhism. You want to check out this Buddhist meeting with me, But we made up business cards and put them in coffee shops, library, handed them out we took them to Westminster House in Newark, just to get the word out. And then basically, if you're interested in Buddhism, you kind of know each other in the meetings, like, oh yeah, you quoted like Thich Nhat Hanh. You want to check this out, So that's how we advertise. But now it's different. You don't want to talk about coronavirus, but I don't know how we'll advertise if we can't go in stores. So, because we have a new meeting schedule now. Like the Earlville one closed till further notice, and we opened up the outdoor meeting in Elkton because that's more central to the county, and we want to help as many people as possible. And we know, like from what Billy said, people are like, "Where, Earlville? Where?" It's it's 10 minutes from me, which was awesome. But my real point is I want to help more people. So we chose Elkton to have, if we're going to start one outdoor meeting, we chose Elkton. So.
Okay. So you mentioned something that I want to get into later, but I think I want to save it for later because it's the juicy bits of this conversation. Not juicy as in like hard to do, but juicier as in more of what I don't know. Anyway, let's stick with some of the specifics. So what does Recovery Dharma say that addiction is?
Oh, okay. It's a process of craving. So you're trying to avoid, you're trying to hang on to pleasure and avoid pain. So it's the repetitive behavior. And that's a very Buddhist thing. Like yeah.
Absolutely. So if anybody who has not heard of Buddhism, that is an entirely Buddhist concept. Not that I'm any Buddhist expert, but I've read
and
a
I'm
couple
not either.
books here.
Yeah, I'll be like when this is released, this podcast, I'm like worried people are going to be on there like she doesn't know anything, but this is my experience,
Right.
So help me learn. If I'm wrong, tell me, But
yeah, feedback is always great. Help us all learn, please.
Yeah.
So what would you say, since that's what addiction is, according to Recovery Dharma, what is their method for treating that? How do they try to stop people from, chasing pleasure to not live in pain?
So you need to get to know your mind by using meditation and practicing and studying the Eightfold Path and Four Noble Truths. So using meditation, you just kind of train your brain. You cultivate your heart with the heart practices. So compassion, joy, forgiveness, equanimity, and then you train your mind with awareness. Like, you start with awareness of breath, awareness of sound, awareness of body, and then awareness of thoughts and thought processes. And as you watch your mind and watch your tendencies, you become you stop being addicted, I guess. Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right. That's funny. Okay. What would be the qualifications for membership?
Oh, all are welcome.
All are welcome.
Yeah, all are welcome. It's probably better if you're not drinking and doing drugs, but complete abstinence is preferred. But like, in the case of food, obviously you can't quit food. But you should work on a plan, probably with a professional or a mentor, to have a proper eating schedule program. But yeah, you can't really meditate when you're on drugs.
Interesting observation. It's just, so I was looking at, like, a lot of these questions come from and they're kind of one-sided because I'm a NA guy, but they're kind of one-sided in the sense that, like, I hear these cliches of like, hey, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using, right? And I'm like, I wonder what the requirement for membership somewhere else is. Like, they're mostly born out of just sayings that I've heard in my particular mode of recovery. But I think it's interesting that like we would totally, and this isn't a knock in any way, but we would say, hey, yeah, if you're high, come to the meeting. Maybe just sitting there, it'll rub off on you or something. Like, who knows?
Yeah,
but
we'd probably be like that too. I don't see anybody who's like still drinking or using drugs like wanting to hang out for an hour with a bunch of meditators. If they're still like, I mean, if they're coming, then they're probably interested and they're probably gonna get into it, or they're gonna go do something else.
I've honestly never understood people who came to meetings high at all, because if I was high, that's the last place I want to be. Like, what the hell? Weirdos.
just sign my paper so I can go off.
Well, there it is. Do you sign court slips? That was coming up.
Nobody's asked me to.
Would you?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't know if there was like a program stance. So, going off of that statement, is like, our meetings are, autonomous except where they affect other meetings. Are your meetings allowed to make your own rules, or is there like a governing body at the top?
Well, I guess there is. It's kind of a governing body, but more like a guiding body. I don't know. We host our meeting according to the book, kind of loosely. We've kind of dropped the opening because we've heard it so many times. We just kind of get into it, unless there's a new person, and we'll do that for them. We send some money to the website, to keep the home base going, but we don't send a lot because we don't have a lot. But haven't really thought deeply about that one.
That's interesting. So going to some of the other groups in Baltimore, they have a specific routine that they do each week, but then they also, if there is a new member who's never been before, they have like this other paper they pull out from under the stack, and they're like, oh, well, we read this one, there's a new member. And it's just, so if you've only ever been to an NA or an AA meeting and you're very used to that mode of recovery, like, there's generally almost always somebody new there, at least at bigger meetings. And so you would never have that kind of option. So I guess going to some of these other fellowships, you get exposed to new concepts and ideas. Like, hey, we don't even bother reading that unless somebody new comes. Like, it's a very unheard of thing at a larger meeting.
Yeah, we're so small. We do have that freedom to kind of like fudge the format a little bit. Like, yeah, we know the routine, but.
So what does your program promise? Is there a promise of what you'll gain if you attend and work your program? Or are there any, this is what you'll get out of this if you come and do this?
Less suffering.
I like
it. It will get you. Sorry, my kids are knocking at the door. Go away. I'll be out in a little bit, hon. Sorry, guys.
It happens.
Yeah, it's kind of a very Buddhist thing, like less suffering. You can get sober with this. You can totally get sober, stay sober, have a happier, less stressful life, a more fulfilling life. I'm not sure if this is in the material or this is just Jenny.
I like it. So, okay, one of the things you kind of alluded to earlier, that you started in AA, and you mentioned that quite a few of the people are still in another fellowship, along with Recovery Dharma. And so, to me, it's almost like from that standpoint, it's like, oh, Recovery Dharma is a great, complementary fellowship or supplementary or whatever you would like to call it. But I know in our conversations we've I think I might have asked you this at one point, and you say that Recovery Dharma could completely be a standalone recovery space. So why do people go to other places still?
I think it can totally be a standalone. I think what we're lacking though is population. I think we just are not big enough. And so many of us came from AA or NA, and we still have friends there that we want to see. So it's just our recovery friends. And so some people have come to Cecil County Recovery Dharma, and this is just all they do. And like I still keep in touch with a lot of my AA friends, but even before quarantine, I was only going to like one AA meeting like every month or two, and just kind of like, oh, I have some free time, I'll go have some coffee with my friends. And I just think what we're missing here in Cecil County is the lack. We just don't have enough members, and people need more. And I think I think some people have checked us out, but they're like, oh, you're small. I need a bigger community. And so they don't come back because they want to spend their time in a bigger group. And and because we are attraction rather promotion, it's like, hey man, you either want to get enlightened or you don't. You know, like we're not going to go out there starting a war to get people to join us. I think, you know, we'll grow slowly. If you want Buddhism, we're here. And I have a lot of friends on social media. So I do feel like I'm part of a bigger community. So that's me though. Like, you know, I like Instagram, I like Facebook, and I can keep in touch that way and feel connected to a bigger community than just what I have here in Cecil County.
So what did you get?
I can't hear you.
Oh no, can you not hear us again?
Yeah, I'm gonna do what I did before. I'll be back, guys.
So Billy, are you how you feeling over there? Are you ready to interject? I got like a shit ton of questions.
I mean, I'm pretty good going along. I don't have a lot to say. I want to make snarky comments, but I'm not going to do that. So
really,
not in a bad way, but yeah.
I like snarky comments sometimes.
Well, I thought if we have 3 people talking, it's going to be weird. So it's a
little tough.
Yeah. I already try not to talk over each other's hard enough, let alone a third person.
Hi.
Hey, she's back.
Hey.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Stupid.
So I live in the country. Yeah. I live in the country. We don't have the most reliable internet. I don't know if that's what's happening is related to that. So
yeah, I'm not sure either. I haven't run into too much of that, but who knows? I mean, it is what it is. You know, this is what you get when you record remotely.
Yeah. I'm trying to talk Jason into going and meeting back at the place. I don't think he's ready yet. I'm ready to go meet in person and do their podcast in person. So.
She's frozen.
Uh-oh.
No. Oh, there she is. Can you hear Jenny?
Sorry. Hopefully, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You're frozen now. I can hear you. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So I hope you can edit all this stuff out. Sorry.
Ooh, some of it maybe. Some of it might be editing for entertainment.
That sounds like work.
Okay, so here's a question. What signs in someone's life would tell them in Recovery Dharma that they are in the recovery process? And what signs would tell them that they might want to like check yourself before you wreck yourself kind of stuff? Like what's signs of those type of things going on?
In my own life, you know, and I can see it with friends. I try not to judge other people's experiences too much unless they ask me. But you know, when you start to see friction, you know, it's like take a moment to slow down and let's take a look at this, you know. You know, if you find yourself getting snappy with your relationships or just frustrated, angry, you know, you're judging and it's not going well, like let's take a moment and let's look inside what's going on. You know, like I know in AA there was like, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? I think this program gives you more tools to look at more details inside, like because you're kind of always working on something. You know, you're working on you know, the right amount of effort, you know, you're putting towards your program, or the, you know, are you doing, is this the right kind of work you want to do in the world? Or like right now I'm kind of on a speech thing. I got to watch my speech, and make sure I'm not gossiping. It's not like a linear path. The Eightfold Path, you work on, all things as they come. You don't have to work on them all at once. You'll just burn out. But you kind of pick a topic and, you're like, how am I doing there? And you work on it. And the book will help guide you with questions and stuff. Go ahead.
So,
Excuse me.
In typical 12-step recovery, we have, a sponsor or someone to like guide you through the step process. Is there something similar in Recovery Dharma, or is it more self-guided or self?
Yeah, we do have mentors. I can tell you here in Hughes County, again, we're small, so we're just and most of us are there have already done step 4 or 5, and so we're not like as urgent. We're not as urgent, but we can still, people do those things over again. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. As we go along in the book, I'm doing a personal journey. And if I feel the need, I have wise friends I can bounce stuff off of. I don't have a mentor in Recovery Dharma, though the Recovery Dharma program does encourage mentors. But we just don't have the population here. And if I bump into something, I have lots of recovery friends that I can be like, oh, this is a problem for me. Can you help me walk me through this? I'll go to like my old sponsor or just friends, peers, people. 'Cause I have spiritual friends who aren't even in recovery that I'll even just talk to them, like they have like spiritual principles that depends on what the topic is, that's sticking with me.
Interestingly, in my program, I keep saying those letters. I'm going to try not to for a little while. I'm going to try to work on my speech while we're on this, Jenny. So I've always heard, you get one sponsor, because if you have more than one sponsor, there could be conflict and disagreements and this, that, and the other. But I have worked the steps out of a book that's not really a part of any fellowship. It's just about 12 steps in general. And it mentioned having like 3 or 4 guides and not one specifically. And so I just thought that was interesting that like it's when you leave, when you've only had exposure to one program and you hear one thing all your life, and then you kind of go out and explore the world and you see that there's all these other varying opinions of like, oh no, sure, have 5 mentors. It's a great idea. And it's like, really? But I have yet to see the drawbacks of any of these other paths.
Yeah. And we're, Buddhism and Recovery Dharma in general, it's all about finding your own truth. It's about slowing down and listening to yourself and finding out what works for you.
So you mentioned that you got the community of, another fellowship, maybe one of the larger ones, and you found that very useful. You still meet up with them once every month or 2 months or so just for coffee, and you enjoy them. What else did you get out of, you say you went to AA. What else did you get out of AA that if you'd have just gone to Recovery Dharma, you feel like you might have missed out on if you didn't go to AA first?
What did I get out of AA?
Yeah, was there anything that like you got there and you're glad you went there first and got that because you feel like you might have missed it?
Yeah, well, like I mentioned earlier, the size. There's a lot more meetings, a lot more people, a lot more time. And they do have a lot more, because of the amount of people in AA, they have a lot more like social and community activities. And that was really great. I have no regrets about starting in AA. It totally worked for me. It's probably what I needed, because it's fun. Like, so, part of my addiction, I was mostly alcoholic. Like part of that too was I never thought I was good enough for Buddhism. I know that sounds weird, but all the mental stuff that goes on with addiction. So even though I had interest in Buddhism back in my drinking days, I just never thought I was good enough. So I know that sounds weird, but I probably wouldn't have gone to that program so well, because I wouldn't have done as well in that program because I had such low self-esteem. I just didn't, I think AA helped me get where I was going. Like if I went into a 5-person meeting of Buddhists, I don't know if it would have worked as well or as fast. But
gotcha. Are there, and this is kind of a 2-part question, are there specific rules to follow in order to be clean or free of whatever addictive path that people might struggle with? And is there any celebration of that sort of freedom from active using time?
They want you to stop. It's encouraged to stop using drugs or alcohol or whatever you're addicted to. But we don't do coins or tags. Though we're happy.
Right. Well,
if people come in and say, "Oh, today's my 1 year," we're like, "Yay!"
Well, I was just curious because, like, a lot of our other programs, we have a bottom line of like, this is what it looks like to be clean or sober or,
I've never heard of that.
abstinent. Well,
Yeah,
like
no,
AA, you don't drink. Like
okay,
that's
all right.
your definition of clean or sobriety.
Okay.
And so I was just curious, like, I know you said this is all inclusive. And so for things like sex addiction or internet addiction or, I guess food addiction, obviously, you don't really have a complete just stop using it as your definition. People in other fellowships, people almost have to come up with their own definitions of what it is to not use those substances or things in their life and to be free of the addictive portion of it. And so I just didn't know if you guys like laid that out for people or if they had to come up with their own idea of what it looked like to be free from it. Or
I guess they have to come up with their own idea. I don't know. Yeah, I guess
it's so much harder when it's not a substance. I think we almost have it easy sometimes when it is a substance.
Yeah, because if it's like if it's like a people addiction, like you can't just not see, like you can't just cut off all relationships. It's really up to you. So in that sense, it's kind of self-guided.
Does your program say anything about dating in your program? Specifically, does it say anything about dating in the first year?
I don't think that's in the book. I don't remember it. No.
It's not in our book either, but everybody will tell you that it is.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, in rehab, they were like, in your first year, like, no breakups, no new relationships. Don't move if you don't have to, and don't have a baby. And I got pregnant in my first year of recovery. I was like, oh no, don't kick me out.
Is there any sort of end or graduation to your program, or is it a lifelong program?
Lifelong.
Okay. So one of the questions we had that someone asked, Jem asked, what is your new passion? What's replaced your using time and attention? And where is your focus now? And I think that's all kind of one question in three different varieties.
What is my, I guess, family, community, Buddhism. I enjoy studying that. Me.
Right. No, awesome.
Getting into me.
Do you feel like recovery Dharma, that's kind of what that path has led you to, say, oh no. Oh, well, we'll try again in a minute.
We just have to keep doing. She has to keep restarting.
Yeah.
Bad internet. Can't believe that's a thing still, but I guess she is way out there in the country.
I'm just surprised it cuts out the voice. If anything, it should cut out the picture.
Yeah, you would think the audio, the audio would stay, but the video would drop out. Huh.
I wonder if it's a internet issue or something else. I don't know what else it could be. But... Are you there?
Better?
Hey! Sorry.
That's all right.
You're saying?
Yeah. So do you? What the hell was I saying? Oh yeah. Do you think it's recovery Dharma and your work in there has guided you to those passions and focus? Like, is that what you've learned through recovery Dharma is, oh shit, I really want to mess with my family and myself and spend time on my Buddhism practice? And is that what that's kind of? Go ahead.
I think it was always there. I think it helped. I think it helped open me up to show me like, this is my real passion. Because, when I think about little 10-year-old Jenny, I wanted a family. But then somehow I got lost and I started drinking around 13 and I started, my people pleasing really kicked in and I, I became this person I really wasn't. And then doing this, I knew I always wanted a family, and that theme was always there, even when I was drinking. And then finally, getting sober helped me pull back the layers of bullshit and like, oh yeah, Jenny, just slow down, just have that family. Nobody's stopping you. Just do it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Thank you.
I think, and somebody's going to correct me because y'all probably know better than me. Celebrate Recovery is like the Christian version of the 12 steps, right? Like they still do the 12 steps, but they do Christianity. Is that what?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Right.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody knows.
Yeah.
So if that's like the Christian version, I know Buddhism, the 12 steps obviously don't work specifically well for that. And that's why you probably don't use them in the Buddhist version of, a recovery program. But would you say that that's a similar type thing to a Christian program, but for Buddhists? Like, is that kind of how that works?
So Buddhism is a religion for some people, but for others, it's more like a philosophy. Buddhism's like, I think of it as the oldest psychology. Like I think the Buddha was the earliest psychologist. And so I think of it more as like psychology, like a secular thing. Now for Buddhism is a religion for some people. And, but when I go into recovery Dharma, I treat it as a secular kind of thing. And I think of it like psychology. So.
That's a really interesting way to put that. Go ahead, Bill.
So could you give us just maybe a brief description or overview of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path? I think that's kind of the direction that would, I guess, replace the steps. So yeah, if you could give kind of a brief.
The Four Noble Truths, I have to pull it out for the Eightfold Path because I always forget one. The first Noble Truth is in life there is suffering. The second Noble Truth is suffering is caused by craving or seeking pleasure, avoiding pain. The third Noble Truth is there is a way there is a way to avoid suffering. And then the fourth is it's the Eightfold Path, which leads me into the Eightfold Path, which I'm just going to read because I always forget. So wise understanding, wise intention, wise speech, wise action, wise livelihood, wise effort, wise mindfulness, and wise concentration.
I like it. So when and this kind of ties into what you had just said, that it's not really so much a religion in the sense of the way you use it. So is there a specific, I don't know how to ask this exactly right to be in line with Buddhism, but is there a specific type of higher power or religious belief along with this, or is it more on the secular side of it?
The way I think of it is the higher power is like the little Buddha in you. Like you have the power to free yourself from addiction, and you have to believe in that. You have to believe in your ability to be free.
This is going to be way too easy for you. Unknown said, if you had to condense your program into one, it didn't work.
I think she lost us again.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that's what she said. Whoops.
Yeah. So there's no powerlessness, it sounds like, in
no powerlessness. Ooh, is that a thing? Is there no powerlessness?
She just said. She said you got to find the power in yourself.
Yeah, I missed the last half minute of audio. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, there is. Say it again, Billy. Sorry.
I said it sounds like there isn't like this sense of powerlessness that we sort of, I don't say teach or express in typical 12-step recovery. You have to admit your powerlessness and that you need a power greater than yourself or outside of yourself. Whereas it sounds like you're saying you need to find that power within yourself. So
I agree with you. And again, I'm a little self-conscious because I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I would agree. And that is part of my attraction to this program. I was getting a little tired of being told that I was always wrong, in AA, like, yeah, that's your alcoholic mind. You don't know, and it's like, well, part of me's right. So, it is, yeah, it says like, you know, you are good inside. Let's find that. Let's find that. A lot of I haven't mentioned this part yet, but a lot of Buddhism too is the kindness. Every step of this is be kind to yourself, be kind to others, you know, be gentle with, you know, a big theme of, you know, you did what you did because that's what you had to do to get by. You are not that person, you know, and I really appreciate that. You know, I need to be, you know, treated gently. And sometimes that was a little tough in, you know, AA, like that kind of rugged, like, just don't drink and get on with your life, you know. And, you know, I was thinking about this, you know, like, I never understood this. Like, you want to drink? Here's $20. You just go drink. Like, what the heck is that? You know, do they do that in NA? Like, I'm like, what is that like?
It's dying out, but yeah, there used to be sit there and shut up and, you know,
yeah, and
cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a little rough, and like, I like the kindness feature. It's just a little gentler. Like, yeah, you know what, you're messed up, but you're gonna be okay, and we're gonna help you. You know, I'm not saying everybody in AA is, you know, rough and gruff, but the whole philosophy in Buddhism and Recovery Dharma is kindness. You know, almost first and foremost. You know, just be gentle with yourself and others, and we'll get through this.
It was so rough, I had to start saying that I would take the cotton candy out of my ears and put it in my mouth. It seemed a little softer. Right.
Ear cotton candy, delicious.
So Unknown asked, if you had to condense your program into one word, what would it be?
One word. Can it be hyphenated?
Sure. 38 hyphens.
Sure.
A Buddhist meditation, probably.
I dig it.
That was a fun question.
Yeah. He's an interesting character.
That
Tim,
unknown.
Yeah, he's unknown, obviously. Tim said he wanted to know about support network, self-improvement and growth, awareness, and how are all of those done? What do you get? Oh, here's a good part of this. What do you get that you weren't getting in AA or that you like better for you?
The Buddhist program, Recovery Dharma, I think it offers me more specific guidance for a total package. So also part of my addiction, I'm ACOA too. And you were talking about there's like a very few meetings around here. There's like, when I was looking for an ACA meeting, there was one. Yeah, there was one, and it was at an odd time. And I ended up going to a therapist to work on my ACA stuff, and that worked. I think Recovery Dharma has the package is more all encompassing. So it's not just my addiction to alcohol, but it also my other features like my ACOA stuff. And you know, sometimes I have food issues, and I definitely have kind of like I don't even know how to define it yet, but I definitely have weird relationships with people. So I don't want to say people addiction, but so I think Recovery Dharma helps address all of that, not just not drinking.
Okay. So go ahead.
In the Recovery Dharma meetings, do you have guess she lost us again. So I'm gonna ask, I don't know if they have like a share. I don't remember there being like a sharing session as you would have almost like group therapy, you know. Like I consider our meetings are almost group therapy where you come in and you share. Can you hear us now? So yeah, she still can't hear. And I don't remember that being a part of that. I remember, you know, coming in and reading, you know, doing the meditation, reading the book, and then talking a little bit about that teaching. But I don't remember a sharing session.
Interesting.
So wonder maybe we could just say what we want to say and chat our questions to her. Just let her talk. Be hard without feedback, but
yeah, that would be pretty tough to do that. I mean, I guess it would work, but I don't know how well it would work.
Yeah.
Because then we would be talking, and then I'd type, and then she'd see that, hopefully, and talk back. Like,
Yeah.
Is that how
It's
that
really
would work?
choppy. It's choppy audio.
Yeah. Well, this isn't working.
It's definitely rough. It's going to be a lot of editing for sure.
Oh no, that's never fun.
I know. So
Yes.
okay. So I guess we'll operate under trying to type the questions to Jenny to finish this
Okay.
out. So Billy was about to ask something actually.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, you're gonna type it.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. So, do you have a sharing session during the meetings?
Yeah, so that's interesting because I kind of wanted to ask about like cross-talking too. When she said, I think she mentioned there was a little bit of a share somewhere
Let me
in
get
there.
it.
Yeah, we do have sharing sessions. So after that, we do meditation, and then we do a little reading, and then we have discussion, and that's a chance for people to share. I prefer no cross talking, and when we started up this new outdoor meeting, I kind of reestablished that rule. I think that would be better if we don't cross talk.
And so, Exploits of a Nobody asked, was there AA or NA wasn't working for you? Were you working the program, like the 12 steps? And what is it about this that speaks to your purpose? And so that's what they wanted to know. Richard as well wanted to know what the program did for.
I'm so sorry about this audio, guys. I'm looking for that message that just popped up. There it is. Okay. What is it then? So I was doing AA, and AA wasn't as fulfilling. I just and I was trying different meetings to see if I could find something, and I guess Buddhism fills that spirituality that I was craving. And AA's at least around here is more Christian. I don't know if that's a rule, but it sure practices more Christian. And then there's the atheists, and I guess I would consider myself agnostic. I'm not sure what. I'm still looking. But Buddhism fulfills the spiritual part of my recovery and my life.
Interesting.
So I'm question?
Yeah, I think so. So New Outlook Detox asked if the emphasis of the program was on accountability and if that was to another person, and how does it address the issues that had someone using to begin with.
As far as accountability, I guess we'll go back to the kindness thing. Like, we don't report to each other, how it's going. It's kind of on you. So to answer your question, how does the program address the issues that you had you using to begin with? Like going back to exploring your past? Is that what you mean? Do I have my phone? Yeah. That's a good idea. Okay. I could try to tune in with my phone if you want.
This is going to be so choppy.
Yeah. Brutal, bad internet. Boo.
I'll be I'll be editing until next Sunday.
If we try to do remote interviews next time, it's all right. Can you send us the results of 3 speed tests before we before we agree to?
Yes.
We need to make sure you're not in too rural of an area.
Hi, sorry.
Hello.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Thanks for being so easygoing.
Oh man, this is all a test.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear what you guys say when I'm like my audio's off.
I
When I hear
basically
the
just
podcast.
I'm gonna be trying to edit till next Sunday. So are you on
Anyway, I
are
can
you
hear
on your
you.
computer
Yeah.
still? Okay.
Yeah. For now.
Well, in the
Hold your
bottom right,
breath.
right in the bottom right, there's a little 3 dots. If you
Mhm.
move your mouse around, and if you
Mhm.
click on it, there's a setting that says use a phone for audio, and that's what I was trying to. I didn't know if that would work better if it went out again or not. Do you have good phone service out there? Did it go out already?
Yeah, messed up.
Oh,
Unless
no.
she's trying to figure that out. I've never tried that either.
I think
She
it
used
doesn't
phone for audio.
sound as nice. I think it sounds like a telephone call, but
Oh yeah, right. Probably. Yeah, the audio probably sucks on your phone.
I was wondering if she could just join from her phone, and that would work any better. One time I was doing an interview. I was messing with a local music magazine in Baltimore, and I was supposed to go interview these guys, this rock band. And like for whatever reason, the interviews got canceled that night. I don't remember if the dude wasn't feeling well or something, and so we all got sent home.
Audio to your video.
Huh. And then
What do I do?
I interviewed my daughter with a mask on instead.
That's crazy.
Press 1 to connect your phone audio. Use your phone to listen and speak to the meeting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Whoa. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah. Is the sound quality okay?
Not quite as good, but better than no sound.
Yeah, better than not being able to hear.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's working?
It seems to be working. I could try the Bluetooth on here.
If
No,
you
it's
want.
already on. All right. I'm afraid to do anything. Like, oh, am I going to lose you? Like,
Yeah, right.
we'll try that. Maybe this will help the audio. Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, how's that audio now?
A little louder.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how's it going?
It's going great.
What did I miss?
We'll start from the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just start over.
So we were at asking if there was an emphasis on accountability in your program, and you were mentioning no.
Wow, does she really lose it through the phone too, huh?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Now I'm back. Hello.
What happened?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no. I don't know what happened, but so you were asking?
Oh yeah, if there was any kind of emphasis on accountability, and I think you started to answer that a little bit, or
Okay. No, I don't even know if I understand the question. So you want people like report in whether they've done drugs or not, or?
well, I think part of what kind of works in the other programs, not so much accountability of like whether they stayed not using. Oh no.
Mhm.
Maybe she should call in.
Phone connect. All right. So what kind of works? So accountability, you're explaining that part?
Yeah, I was trying to. I was gonna send you the call. Do you get good phone service?
Like mobile phone?
Yeah.
It's okay.
I
Yeah.
didn't know if calling in would work better, or I don't know. I'm trying to solve this technical issue. Now I can't hear her.
Bluetooth keeps stepping. Maybe I'll try the headphones.
We're gonna do this and find out it was actually the Bluetooth all along.
Yeah, right.
It's not the internet.
Right.
Or no, I think she had the headphones on.
My iPhone doesn't have a phone jack.
Damn you, Apple.
Yeah.
Can you hear us? No.
We can go back to
Speaker?
Let's see.
hello.
That's so weird. We can hear her. Yes. Can you hear us?
This is so old-fashioned. All right. Yeah, I can hear you.
This is hilarious. So no, I think to get back to the question a little bit, I don't think it's so much like reporting in on whether I got high or not this week. I think of accountability more like when I got my first service commitment at my first home group, it was like, hey, you're the coffee maker. And I just felt like, hey, I should probably show up and make this coffee. It's my job. And then like in having a home group, I sort of, if I don't show up, people are probably going to call me and say, hey, you ain't been here for 2 weeks. Just that kind of accountability, not really accountability in the sense of like reporting in on your status. Do you have anything similar to that?
We try to take turns running the meeting. Some people are more self-conscious about reading a meditation than others. So we started playing meditations from the phone. So Insight Timer has all the recovery Dharma meditations. So we just we try to take turns leading the meeting, and we have different contacts who would be like the point person for the location of the meeting, just kind of unofficial. But we don't do coffee. I mean, some meetings do. Maybe it's just because we're so small, and but we haven't had much need to do coffee or clean up or much because we're just so small.
I would think with trying to meditate, you might want to do decaf tea, not coffee.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. Yeah, you don't want to get jacked up, so sit still. Exactly.
Right. 6 shots of espresso right before your meditation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you
There's
might
not
learn
a lot
something.
of those like energy drinks in recovery Dharma meetings that I see.
Oh man, that's got to be wild. So Dave asked, how do you deal with anger, fear, or sadness? And I almost, so interestingly enough, what he mentioned was
one at a time, or
well, I think so. When I read his question, I was kind of like, man, that's sort of what our third step in my program talks about. Like, we don't have to fight these feelings anymore. We can allow them to exist. And I almost felt like you sort of touched on it earlier, that like that seems to kind of be the Buddhist path, is the whole third step concept of like, we don't have to fight our feelings. We can allow our feelings to be and just be there with them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if you had any more input into that with how you guys deal with anger and fear and sadness. Yeah,
I mean, feelings come and feelings go. Just, let them happen and watch for a pattern. Are you getting angry at a certain time of day or with certain people, certain places? Watch for the pattern and try to tweak your life in a better direction.
Gotcha. Billy, did you have any questions? I think I've almost run through everything I got over here.
My only question was more, I guess I would say, like a kind of personal question for Jenny. So, like growing up, were you religious growing up, or were you raised in a house that had any sort of religion? And then how did you come into like Buddhism and figuring out that was something you were interested in?
I was raised Lutheran, and I did Sunday school up until about 13, 14 years old, right about the time when I started drinking. Coincidence? I don't know. But we used to go to church every Sunday. And then around 13 or 14, that's when my parents got divorced. Everything spiraled out of control. And then I did start drinking and doing drugs. Buddhism, it's funny. I just found an old coloring book. My mom brought me some old stuff. And I was drawing pictures of Japan when I was like 7 or 8. So I think Asian culture interested me way back then. And so I first picked up a Dalai Lama book in college age. It was The Art of Happiness.
And I was reading it. I'm like, yeah, this is great. I really like this. I like this. And then they got to the part where like no intoxicants. I'm like, oh wait, it's not for me. So I actually literally put it down, but I still had the book. And then when I found Recovery and they said, you got to find a spiritual side, I was like, that book in college, that Art of Happiness book, I'm going to pick that up again. And I read the whole thing, even the no intoxicants part. I was down with that. And then I just kind of took off from there. So the Lutheran, I think, was good because it was like a program. In the sense, I'm good with programs. I was a good Girl Scout. I was good in church. Give me a routine and I can do it. Homeschooling now, like just give me a program. I can do it. But I remember even in Lutheran, I was like, I don't know. Like I had a lot of questions about God. Like, I don't know. And I seriously, I still don't know. And that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of still exploring what is my concept of God, if any. And Buddha is a good companion for that. For me.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I'm going to go a completely different direction. So, if you
okay, yeah. So, I don't know if this ties into that or not, but I was curious if your program maybe has a type of person it would work best for, right? Or is there types of people that maybe wouldn't probably be so successful in your fellowship and maybe should go to a different place first or all together? Because they just probably wouldn't align well with, like, I didn't know if it was a better fit for some people than others, and if there was some way to kind of gauge that before you walked into a meeting.
I don't know. But I'm the kind of person who thinks we should all be meditating. So I think we'd all be better if we were all meditating. I think people who are practicing recovery Dharma, I think it enhances their relationship with other recovery programs. I think when we practice recovery Dharma, we can be better in AA. We could be better in NA. I think we could be better Christians if we're practicing Buddhist principles. And we do have, we have Christians in our recovery Dharma program. They just, because it's more like a psychology to them than a religion.
So my question would be, so in typical, like I would say traditional, like 12-step fellowships, there seems to be like this abstinence-based ideology behind either AA or NA or whatever. If you had people that said, hey, I think I have a drinking problem, but I would like to drink responsibly, like, is that something recovery Dharma would help with that? Or is it really kind of more, I don't know, like a more abstinence-based approach to dealing with addictions?
Renunciation is really part of our program. If somebody came in, I don't know why they would come see us if they just had a little bit of a drinking. Like, well, no, I'm not sure how that scenario would go.
Yeah, there are some programs out there now that would say that you could be, say, an alcoholic, totally wreck your life, but we can help you learn to manage and drink responsibly. Like, there are programs that will help people learn to kind of get their maybe drinking or using under control. And I didn't know if recovery Dharma would be something that did that, or is it more really and that's an approach to any addiction, not necessarily drugs or alcohol. Obviously, they can be fairly destructive, but any addictions, is there like a management component there?
Yeah, no, I don't. I have no experience with that, and I don't know anybody who has. I don't think that's really our department.
Oh man, I want to throw you really under the bus now. So somebody comes into recovery Dharma and they are on Suboxone, and they've decided that that's the path for them, right? They're completely, like, their life is way better than it was. Mm-hmm. Do you treat that different than somebody who's on Prozac? Like, are they allowed to be on Suboxone and work your program, or is that not?
Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry. If the answer to my last question was in conflict to yours, I didn't mean for it to be. if somebody's managing their recovery with Suboxone, or if somebody's managing their mental health with Prozac or whatever, I'm not going to tell them to stop. First of all, they don't even have to disclose that to me. That's not my business. But if they're working with a medical professional that's prescribing they can do that. You know, they don't even have to tell me or anybody. That's their private thing.
So I feel like when people come to maybe NA or AA, they sort of need that identification of like, oh my God, I've done some of these awful things in my using time, and I need to know that some other people also did these awful things and can say me too, and life got better. Do you feel like Recovery Dharma has space for that, or because people are sharing about so many different things that they're recovering from, that maybe people won't feel as inclined to share some of that deeper, dirtier stuff in a meeting?
I've only been to smaller meetings, so I'm not sure how a bigger meeting would go. And we've had the whole gamut of shares. Some people share some really, dark stuff, and some people, share the really surface stuff. And I feel like we have connected with each other enough. I'm not sure how it would go with a bigger meeting. I just have no experience. So you had mentioned some bigger communities, let's say in like Baltimore or I know Wilmington, Delaware. Well, Wilmington only has one, but Lancaster actually has a pretty big meeting. Oh, okay. I was curious if you had an opportunity to get to any of those areas, just to see maybe a little bit of difference if you were at like a bigger meeting or. Well, I haven't been to their their regular weekly meetings, but Lancaster has a spring and fall retreat, and I've joined them then, and that's how we became friends. And now we're online and Facebook group, and so that would be like the biggest Recovery Dharma meeting. It was a retreat I had gone to. A couple of us went. It was nice to connect with them. Yeah, cool.
So when I know you say you still go to AA. This might be judgy from me. Like, generally, when we work the 12 steps, right? 11 says pray and meditate. 12 says, hey, carry this message to others, right? And it doesn't tell you how, and it doesn't say you need to do that in AA, right? If you go to AA or NA, there seems to be this sentiment of people were here to freely give you this stuff, and now for the rest of your life, you kind of need to show up and give it back to them freely. And it's a pretty beautiful concept. I get it, right? I'm not saying I'm totally sold on that's the only way to do it. I think there's other places to freely give back and be just as useful in life. Hopefully, through the principles of the steps, we're being people who freely give back in a whole lot of different areas of our life. And so I'm not sold on the fact that I'm required to be a member of this 12-step program for the rest of my life just because they saved my life. I do appreciate it. And so far, I am still a member. Not sold on the fact that I have to be or that anyone else has to be, right? I'm just curious how hard that decision was for you to say, hey, I feel like maybe these people saved my life or gave me a life worth living, but now I think it's time for me to kind of stop participating in their fellowship or program. I really want to do this other one. I just think it's better for my life and I can give back there and not feel bad about it.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Good job. I had to do what was right for me. It was getting to be a drag. I was coming home from AA meetings, like not pumped up, like drained. I was like, ugh, and I was like, I needed to find some, because I have limited time. I have a family I need to, be home for. I have limited time to spend outside of the house on my recovery. And I needed, as more, as much of powerful time as I could to, so I needed to find a better system for me. And so, I don't feel like I've abandoned AA. I feel like I changed, I'm changing still. Who knows? I may get back into it. I might, if once, the kids are back to school and stuff, I might be dying to go to meetings during the day when they're in school. I change all the time. I didn't foresee me starting a Buddhist recovery meeting in Earlville when I first started this path. I don't foresee what I'll be doing another 5 years from now. So for now, this is what's working for me, and it's working pretty great.
I feel like almost to my detriment at times, I will hold on to this like stoic, dour, British sense of commitment, even when it's not serving me well.
Yeah.
I definitely have it. My wife would tell you in a lot of areas, but yeah, in recovery too.
So I definitely
Well,
applaud.
loyalty's a good quality.
It is, but I applaud your ability to do what, probably a couple of my therapists have told me makes more sense, which is do what's right for your life instead of what you feel you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Well, this is something I talked about. Yeah, I talked about it with my sponsor. Like, I kind of want to do this. And she encouraged, this was an AA sponsor. She's like, you need to do, what's best for your recovery. She didn't want to see me go. And technically I didn't go, but I just decreased a lot.
Right.
So. I still have tons of AA friends. In fact, right before quarantine, I was asked to speak at an AA meeting. So that Thursday before your interview, it was like that I was supposed to do. Like, we were supposed to meet that Sunday before quarantine. And that earlier week I had the speaker. So I was all pumped up for the interview. I was like ready to communicate to the world, So that was my last AA meeting. So, I mean, it was nice because I'm still like kind of a valued member. Like, they still see me as part of their group. Even though I'm not there that much, it was nice to be invited to speak.
How does that feel for you to speak? You're not really technically working the program right this moment, right? Or haven't for a while?
Mm-hmm.
So how does that feel? Do you feel, I don't know, I guess for me, I might feel a little imposterish to some extent.
I didn't feel that way. I just told him my experience. And I even told him I started the Recovery Dharma meeting. I mean, that was part of my story. And,
right.
I told him how AA saved me. And here's where I'm at today. That was the short version.
Did you get through all 12 steps before you switched over?
I sure did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Has Recovery Dharma had online meetings during this quarantine?
Yes, they have. They have like hundreds. So that's why I didn't start one for our group, because there was already so many out there. I was like, what more could we offer? And, if you go to the website, there's tons still going on. And actually I didn't go to any of them because I just got so busy managing the house and the kids and everything. I just did my own normal home, meditation program that I do. And, so that's why I was kind of thirsty for a meeting, that in-person meeting. It was good to be with a group again. Oh, you know what? So with my daughter's school, we had 7 to 10 Zoom meetings a week. So by the end of that, I was like, I am not getting on another Zoom meeting to do meditation. But I kept in touch. I mean, I talked to recovery friends either, over the phone or through social media every day. So I didn't feel like kind of loose or flapping in the wind. I still felt pretty grounded. And I joke about homeschooling being my new program, but there is some seriousness to that. I just really dug into that and got us established so we could do well.
Yeah, and I would just like to compliment you. I'm your friend on Facebook, so I follow some of the homeschooling things, and it's really looks like you're having a lot of fun and doing great with it. So I commend you for that effort. It looks really fun.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we are having fun with it. The school provides all the material. I'm like, all right, let's do this. Thank you. We are having a good time.
Went the other way in quarantine. I've gotten like lazy, and I kind of haven't been doing a lot for myself and just not eating well. So actually this week was the first week I started like, all right, I got to get back in a better routine. This quarantine thing's kicking my ass. So
Jenny,
you don't look bad.
Oh, thank you.
For anybody that doesn't know Jenny is the Facebook friend that you don't dislike. They're not doing it for applause, but they're doing such fun and great stuff with their family that it makes you feel a little bad about yourself. You're like, God damn it, I can do better. That's hilarious. You got any other questions, Bill? I think I've exhausted all my questions about it for the most part.
Just the last one is, where do you guys meet, and how can you find Recovery Dharma in Cecil County?
Well, we are meeting in Elkton on Thursday nights at 6:30 at the Voices of Hope Recovery Center, 409 West Pulaski Highway. And we are meeting in the fire pit out back. Bring your own chair. There's some logs there, but bring your own chair or meditation cushion. And we are respecting social distancing. And so no hugs or handshakes, please. We're staying 6 feet apart. And the bathroom is available to us, but we are trying to all like, hey, just go pee before you leave, and try to, so we don't have to enter the building, and we're trying to keep, you safe, them safe, everybody safe.
Nice. And roughly how long's the meeting? Or
about an hour. We're
Great.
talking about, because there's so many Buddhist things we want to talk about. So we're talking about doing the meeting for an hour, and then if nobody has the fire pit after us, just kind of hanging out to talk about those like, other Buddhist topics that maybe didn't fit into the meeting. Like, oh, hey, I listened to this talk, or what do you think about, some guy wants to talk about chakras. And I was like, I don't know if that's appropriate for the meeting, but why don't we talk about it after the meeting?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's funny. Do you think the Buddhism thing will throw people off? Like some people will be turned off by that idea? Like people who might have come to Recovery Dharma, if you just mentioned, hey, we have these principles and they're pretty nice. But then they hear Buddhism and they're like, that's not for me.
I don't know if anyone would find Recovery Dharma and not know that Buddhism is a big part of it. With the Dharma in the title.
You might have a point. I might not have known at one point in my life. Interesting. And so, yes, feel free to go attend Recovery Dharma, try it out. I know I've heard in some other fellowships that I've gone to that if you go to a meeting and each meeting has its own style and feel and vibe, and so maybe you should attend like 6 different meetings before you decide if a certain program is right for you or not. And so I always think that's a great thing to say when you're thinking about a new meeting. I think at some point I will try Recovery Dharma as a meeting, at least, maybe not
you
as a
come.
replacement. I don't think I'm ready to quite yet, but maybe soon. I'm still in not leaving my house mode. But maybe when things get a little normal, I will definitely at least come visit and say hi. You said it's Thursday night?
Thursday night, and we're outside and we're spaced out. Not spaced out meditation, spaced out 6 feet apart.
We're spaced out. Yeah, no, I get it.
I know. I keep saying I want to try to make it Thursdays my home group night. So I'm like, 6:30 to 7:30. If I left right from there, I might make it by 8. So we'll see.
Well, I don't think we're going anywhere. If we've made it this long with like 5 people, we're good. I mean, we've gotten up to 10, but it's usually, a meeting's usually about like 5 people.
Awesome. So did you have anything else? Any final thoughts you wanted to say? Oh, is there any main differences between Refuge Recovery and Recovery Dharma at this point?
So Recovery Dharma is peer-led with, no leaders, no teachers. And the book is different.
And that's just, I mean, if you went to a Refuge Recovery meeting, do you feel like was it a big difference switching over from one to the other, or did it feel pretty similar?
It felt pretty similar. Like if I moved to a new area and Refuge Recovery was there, I would go to that. But if I'm starting a meeting, it's going to be Recovery Dharma.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could understand that. I'm not going to say any more about it. Thank you so much for coming on, Jenny. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Jenny.
Thank you so much. This was fun. I'm so sorry about the audio and all the editing you're going to have to do. But
I'll cuss
this
you
was an
while I'm
honor.
editing.
This was fun. And I'm a fan of the show. You actually, especially in early quarantine, you guys were my meetings. I was listening to your podcast show. Seriously. So I'm a fan. Keep up the good work. Thank you for this.
Oh, thank you.
Give us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Jenny.
All right. Bye.
Bye. So that was nice.
Interesting. Yeah. First
Definitely.
interview and over technology with technical difficulties. Imagine that.
And so, I don't, editing is going to suck. I'm actually going to have to listen to this whole fucking thing just to edit it. That's going to be terrible. God. I don't think people realize I don't listen to this at all. Very rarely.
Right. We just talk and get it out. That's it.
Right. No, I do go
I'm
back
so
and listen
far
to some.
behind right now on all my podcasts.
Ah, dude,
So
it's hard. It's so hard
I just
without the driving.
I listened to another one recently, and it was more about like what things can you do to help your immune system in case you get sick with anything, but specifically with coronavirus going around. Like, it's some people have a good immune response and some people don't. So what things can you do for your, better immune response? And they say take vitamin D. That vitamin D is a really good one. And then one of the guys at my home group is a nurse at Elkton Hospital, and he said that's actually one of the things in their treatment regimen is vitamin D. Like, you just load them up with vitamin D. So it's very cheap. I went and bought some vitamin D, and now my whole family's taking vitamin D and vitamin C supplements every day. So I figured it was a $15 investment for a month, you know what I mean? For a month worth for everybody. So I thought, what the hell? I mean, worst case, your pee will be a little bit more yellow, and best case, we'll have some immunity. So who knows? Better immunity.
Dude, I'm still, again, I really no interest in talking about coronavirus. For me, I'm like I don't think it's about I guess it is like the riskier situation. Like, I don't want to go in the middle of a festival of 50,000 people, but it's more for me limiting the risk of number of risks, right? Like, I dropped my kids off with my mother yesterday, and I didn't. Is that risky? Possibly. She goes to work, right? But then, like you mentioned, let's meet up and do this in person. And I'm like, well, okay. So I've already met my mom, right? There's one risk factor. She goes to work at a grocery store. That's a whole lot of risk that she's bringing to me. Now, if I go meet Billy in person somewhere, now we're talking about everybody that Billy works around and whoever they run into. Now we're talking about everybody that Billy sees at the meeting and whoever it's just how much.
And that's exactly what hit me after the meeting. You know what I mean? Like that whole concept that you're talking about. It's like, and I didn't project that going into the meeting, but then after the meeting, I'm like, oh shit, that's a lot of exposure that you just went through, and
it's exponential. Weird. It's exponential. To meet up with you in a room is like exponentially increasing my risk factor, and I'm like, is there a quiet place we could record outside with masks on? I might try that. Like,
right.
I don't know about the room idea just yet, though.
Yeah, it's getting warmer now. Back to outside somewhere. Gosh.
Yeah. Is there somewhere quiet we could do it? I would record outside, but we'd almost have to like yell at each other from 6 feet away.
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
Or just have two computers far away.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious. I've actually considered. I like that YouTube gets the bonus material, and I definitely do the air quotes during that because it's really just us talking about nothing, absolutely nothing. But I like that, and I like not having to make the video for YouTube out of just a standalone picture and our voices. And so when we do end up back in person, I want to find a way to also record it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how to do that. I almost think I don't know if we need 2 laptops or we need to do one of them on a phone, or I don't know. It's not like this is a great recording. I think I've only watched it once, but I think it like flips back to whoever's talking, which is nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
So we're just going to have to kind of set a phone up to just record both of us, I guess, and the sound. I don't know. It's going to be shitty, but I almost feel like that's what we have to do it. And I like the video idea.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good idea. So what do you got planned the rest of your day?
Oh, shit. Probably fucking 12 hours of editing.
Oh, man.
No, nothing fantastic. I got to go meet my mother and, grab 2 of my kids that stayed the night at her house last night. But that's it, really. Now that I don't have a Sunday night home group, I don't really do much of anything on Sundays. Yeah. I do this.
Are they meeting at the park or at the building?
Supposedly at the park, the last I heard. And then the time changed. It was like it was at 7, and then it switched to 7:30. I saw or something. I don't know. I really can't keep up with it. I'm definitely not going. I don't know what to, I just know it's actually kind of freeing to not have it Sunday night. I never really wanted a Sunday night home group. It just made the most sense for people coming to visit for my anniversary from Baltimore.
Oh yeah.
So I did go to the Thursday this week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the
The
Thursday.
Perryville one?
No, what is that? It's PA, Nottingham.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was a pretty good meeting.
Yeah, I like. There's good people there. There really is.
The one thing I didn't like was that at least half of the meeting didn't have cameras on. They were like calling in, or they just had their camera turned off.
A lot of people been. Yeah, that's like the new thing. I've seen that a lot in meetings, and I don't like it either. I hate that.
If we had to do this by phone, it would be so much more difficult. I truly enjoy looking at the person I'm talking to.
Me too, for sure. That's one of the things I didn't care for much with Zoom meetings. It seemed like it got, I'll say, worse later. But in the beginning, it seemed like everyone had their cameras on, and then slowly it was like just more and more people were just like turning their cameras off. And I'm like, well, that sucks. Like that kind of, it's bad enough you're already not in a meeting with a bunch of people. Now you're turning your camera off.
Right.
I don't know. That was just for me, but.
Yeah, that was the only drawback. But the meeting itself, they read a nice little piece of literature, and then they had some good shares about it. I definitely enjoyed it, so I'm gonna try to keep attending that. I guess that would hold me up from going to Recovery Dharma unless I took a week off.
Yeah, because that's at 7 o'clock. You wouldn't be able to make Recovery Dharma.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you gonna tackle the bathroom today?
Yeah, that'll be most of my day. I'm trying to just get it done at this point. It's like one of those lingering things where it's like, fuck, I've been working on this for weeks. But here's what keeps happening. I'll get an hour or two when I get home from work. I'll do something. Jen will be like, hey, why don't you take a break and come down and just hang out with me tonight? And so I'll be like, okay. And then, she was just saying like yesterday or tomorrow. So crazy things kind of happen. My 18-year-old, I think she's temporarily moving out. Kind of suddenly. So there's a girl that they've been going to school with, one of her really good friends at school. She was being raised by her grandmother, and it was just her and her grandmother had an apartment in Newark. This girl's 17, and my kids have known her 10 years, plus however long she's gone to the school. Anyway, that girl's grandmother died like suddenly, like had a heart attack and died. I'm going to say what it's been, I think a week ago. I think it was Sunday. It was either Saturday or Sunday last week. And so, my daughter says, hey, can I go stay with Jade for a couple of days? Her grandmother just died, and she's in this apartment by herself, and all her grandma's stuff's still there. And I guess they have a little bit of family support, but not a lot. But anyway, so through the week, they've kind of been working on what this girl's going to do, like what, because she's got I think the girl she turns 18 in like 2 months. So she's only got a couple of months. She'll be 18. But her great grandparents basically have said, look, if you want to stay in that apartment, we'll pay the rent and utilities as long as you continue to go to school and, do those things because the girl's got a job and she goes to school. They said, as long as you do those things, we'll pay for this apartment if you want to stay there. And she seems to really want to stay there. So my daughter's like, well, maybe I'll move in with her, to help her out. And, I don't know. So, weird. So yeah, pretty crazy. So, and it's weird. Jen seems pretty, I don't know, upset about it. And to me, I'm almost excited. I'm almost like, wow, it's really, here's my kid. She's getting this sort of weird opportunity to step out into adulthood and start living this life and doing some new exciting stuff. And, how can we support her and help her through that, and kind of teach her. And I remember being that age and wanting to get out on my own, and my reasoning was completely different. I was doing it because I wanted to do drugs and get high, and I wanted my parents to get off my ass. But But I don't know. I look at it as like this really cool kind of fun opportunity for my daughter. So it's interesting. But in any case, she wants us to move some furniture for her tomorrow, of course, because I got a truck. So that's what people do when you have a truck, is ask you to move furniture.
That's exactly what you do when you have a truck.
Yeah. So I may be moving but it's like, now we're going to move furniture. And then, Jen's like, why don't you invite your dad over? And, maybe we'll have a campfire later. I'm like, here we go. When we schedule all these things, that means between the podcast and then invite my dad over, and then we do a campfire later, I'll get to work on the bathroom for like 2 hours today before 10 other things come up. And then it won't get done this week. It'll be next week. And it's like, that's what keeps happening.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm trying to just commit, and be like, this is my fucking weekend where I'm just working on the back, and it just doesn't happen.
Do you have off tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm off tomorrow too. So
yeah, I don't have any plans for that either.
No, we don't really either.
It's hard to have plans right now. You can't do anything.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't know. I seemed okay with a meeting, seemed kind of justifiable, but a lot of other things really don't. I like just going to hang out. I mean, we did go. So Jen's niece graduated from college, and we did like a little. There wasn't very many people, but we did a little bonfire at her sister's house yesterday. They did like a campfire where everybody was outside, social distancing. There wasn't any like hugging or anything going on. Everybody brought their own drinks and stuff,
Right.
We did that. But yeah, I don't know how comfortable I am doing a bunch of big social stuff. I don't think I want to be around a bunch of people.
I mean, we really don't know what's going to happen.
No.
Look, a month from now, we could have, maybe the heat really does take all this down, and maybe there's been very few infections and we're still going downhill and it's all wonderful. And that's great, but it could also look very different in a month.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be not, completely irresponsible or whatever. But we may invite my dad, or maybe we'll invite him over tomorrow night. We'll see, because we haven't seen him. God, it's been a month. He came over once for dinner and during this whole time.
Right.
So we thought maybe we'll invite him over for dinner.
And that's where I'm doing my best to start getting used to the idea that there's going to be limited amounts of exposure now. Right. And so like, okay, you know what? If we're going to go see my mom, we'll go see my mom. Like, I'm not going to even question it anymore. There will be limited amounts. Maybe if we need to run to a store to get something to eat, we'll do that and not think twice about it. But I still want to keep those numbers down. It's just, I'm going to start allowing myself like the here and there, do these little things so that I can start getting used to the idea of, this is changing. We are starting to open up.
Yeah. And it is pretty crazy. I mean, and if anything, I can say though at the meeting, I mean, I don't know if maybe this is a justification. I don't know, but there was a guy at the meeting who he's coming back off of relapse. His fucking wife overdosed and died like 3 weeks ago. And he went into like a treatment program down in Baltimore, but he's like, I went into this treatment program. He said, they aren't fucking doing nothing. You just stay in the house all day, and they have, group counseling with the guys in the house, but they're not getting you out to any meetings. Nobody's going to any meetings. Nobody's really, it's so fucking weird in recovery. He's like, it really wasn't helping me. So I had to get out. He's like, I found out there was a meeting and I couldn't wait to get here. So, and unfortunately, that's one of the people I hugged was him. But as he, comes up, hey, like arms out, big hug. Cause I haven't seen him in years, it's been years, and he had a couple years clean, and I think he relapsed like 2 years ago.
Man, he brought the Baltimore cooties up.
Yeah. We was living up here until he went down there for treatment. But it's fucking scary.
It is, man. It is. And again, look, you can, maybe it's an overreaction. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. I mean, I look at the money. The main corporations are still closed. I get that they're starting to have a plan of reopening in June at some point, but they're still talking about having schools not be the same next year. And I'm like, I just can't believe all this fuss is about a nothing scare, right? It's hard for me to believe. that everybody would be like, oh yeah, we're all on board with being scared about nothing. Like,
no, I think really we're hopefully most people. I mean, I know we got a few because there's a few of my home group that are assholes that are like, I ain't wearing fucking masks and fuck these people. And I think that's like an asshole thing to do. Like I think you should still be reasonable. You should still be safe, and hopefully that is going to be what helps. Like, I'll wear a mask. I'm cool with that. I mean, it's annoying, but I don't care really at the end of the day. If it fucking makes any difference and helps, good,
Yeah.
But yeah.
I want to get a really super comfortable mask. That's my goal.
Yeah. But
all right. I won't hold you up anymore.
Yeah, man.
We'll figure out.
I'll talk to you soon. I might try to make it over there, that recovery Dharma. I might try to go. Check it out.
Man. Well, good. You'll have something to talk about next week.
Yeah, right. So I had to go.
We'll have to come up with a topic before next week.
Yeah. See what happens as the life opens back up.
Yeah.
Well, all right, man. Well, have a good week. I'll talk to you soon.
You too, Billy.
See ya.
Bye.